DND number 4, Weeds Grow in Jesus' Name, chapter 21. The room tilted for just a second. When it righted, Mark and Joey had moved in front of Ricky. Ricky eyed their backs with a smile. Oh, how he loved his family. His father stood beside them, Jason beside him, hitting a wall between the officers and himself. Ricky was sure if Shelley and Angel hadn't been holding sleeping children, they'd be right there too. The officers visibly swallowed. "May I see the warrant?" Justin asked. They handed him the papers. The room remained silent as Justin examined them. He looked up, surprised. "Aggravated assault?" He turned to the family. "That's a felony offense." Ricky patted Mark and Joey's shoulders to get them to move aside. They parted, and Ricky moved through to stand in front of the officers. "Aggravated assault usually involves a weapon," Justin continued. He looked up at Ricky. "Did you have a weapon, Rick?" Ricky shrugged and held up his hands. They were red and swollen with some scrapes and cuts. "I'm sorry, Rick," the other officer said. "Tommy Crane is screaming bloody murder about this. He's pressing charges." "He was trying to kill me," Ricky said softly, making a pleading gesture with his hands. "Yes, sir, we know. But he says you continued to beat him long after he'd been subdued." Ricky sighed. "I can't believe this." "Is it just his word?" Eric asked. Ricky eyed his father. Was he about to lie to try to save him? Because Ricky had continued to beat Tommy after he'd taken his gun, and his father knew it. "He said there were others present," the officer went on. "Some FBI and you, sir. He also said we should simply ask you," the officer said, nodding at Ricky. "He seemed pretty confident that you would tell the same story." The officer looked up at his hero. "Did you do what Crane says you did?" "You don't have to answer that, Rick," Justin said quickly. "That's right," the officer said. "You have the right to remain silent, and with all respect, I would suggest you use it." Ricky's eyes swept the room. He could get out of this. The FBI agents would probably help him without blinking an eye, lie or mislead. They wanted justice. Nevertheless, Ricky didn't want his father to be put in a position of lying for his son. "Yes." "Damn it, Rick," Justin said. Ricky appealed to the officers. "This man kidnapped my sister with the intent to kill her. He thought he had killed her. He held another girl hostage. He kidnapped me, beat me, and left me for dead. He wrecked the car in which my sister and stepmother were riding and could have killed them all. He's responsible for Bree being shot, and he shot and killed an Ameritech agent." "Yes, sir. And he's being charged with everything they can throw at him. Really, it's this new chief. He's intent on following the book. He says if it'd been police officers that had beaten Crane to a bloody pulp, there would be a huge public outcry. He says the same thing applies to you. Legally, once Crane was subdued, there was no reason to continue." Ricky ran both hands through his hair. "This is ludicrous," Jason said. "I agree, sir, it is. Chief says Crane is innocent until proven guilty in court, and he has the right to press charges and will be given his rights. He says he doesn't want any charges against Crane thrown out because he didn't receive his due rights." Joey cursed. "No, Joe, I did what they say I did, and I should have had more control. And the chief is following the law, which is based on our Constitution, which I honor and respect." Ricky paced across the room and came back to stand in front of the officers. His mouth pressed into a thin line. Brianna is in recovery. Can you hold off for an hour? I just need to see her." His voice cracked as he asked the question, causing Shelley and Angel's tears to start. The officers eyed each other. Sighing, the officer shook his head. "We were told to bring you in without delay, to give you no special treatment." Ricky's eyes moistened. He needed to see Bree. He swallowed hard. I'm going to have to ask you to face the wall." "Justin, you're the attorney. Do something," Angel pleaded. He shook his head. "I'll call the judge and see if I can get him out tonight, but I can't stop this process." Ricky turned and faced the wall. The officer placed his hand on the smaller Ricky's back. Please place your hands on the wall, the officer said, and spread your legs. Ricky complied, his head hanging down between his arms. Sir, do you have anything to declare before I search you? Ricky heaved a sigh, his mouth tightening. Are you talking about the wallet, cell phone, or keys? Or maybe you mean the handy little knife in my left pocket. The room was utterly quiet while the officer ran his hands over Ricky and removed his possessions. Shelley was extremely glad that Jeffy remained asleep. The officer finished his search and reached up to grab Ricky's arm and pulled it down behind his back. He clipped the cuff around Ricky's wrist, then reached up and grabbed the other arm. Once Ricky's hands were securely cuffed, they turned him around, and Ricky scanned his audience. Tell. He cleared his throat. Give Bree my love. Tell her I'll come to her soon. We'll take care of it, Eric said calmly, doing his best to show strength for Ricky's sake. The visual, however, of seeing his son searched and placed in cuffs would stay with him for a long time. He looked up at the officers. Since this new chief is so intent on showing no preference, are we to assume that they'll put Ricky in with the general population? The officers nodded with a sigh. I think that would be a safe assumption. I'm sorry. Eric glanced up at Ricky, their eyes meeting. He knew and Ricky knew that meant he may have to defend himself. Many would want a free shot at him, and that meant more charges against him if a fight or brawl breaks out. Apparently, Justin realized the same thing. Rick, Justin said, you keep your head down and don't look anyone in the eye. Ricky swallowed and peered into his father's eyes for several moments before he spoke. I'm afraid I can't do that, he said softly. Ricky, Justin said, this isn't about pride. I'll never lower my head in shame or fear. It's not in me. And you remain my hero, the officer said softly. He took Ricky's arm. Let's get this over with. The place is crawling with media. I'm afraid this will be all over the news. Oh, I don't care about that, Ricky responded automatically. He stopped and turned to his family. I'm sorry you have to deal with this. I let my temper get the best of me, and I didn't consider the consequences to myself and especially to you. Jason warned me about this. I should have known Tommy would use anything he could to continue to hurt us. He gestured toward Joey. Joey, take special note, please. Yes, sir, I got it. Joey faced him and bowed. Ricky returned the gesture. Mark followed suit, as did Jason, and finally Eric. Eric nodded at his son. We learn as we go, Rick. Ricky, Shelley said softly. He glanced over at her. She was smiling, a twinkle in her eye. Take notes. You may need this experience for a movie role. He smiled. Everyone smiled. Eric peered at his wife with approval. She was the best when it came to making lemonade. New scene. Her lashes fluttered open. Ricky, she whispered. No, Bree, it's Eric, he said softly, running his hand over her hair. How do you feel? Sleepy. Are you in any pain? Not yet. Is Mom okay? She's right here. She is in pain, and I'm going to take her home as soon as she sees that you're okay. He turned and pushed the wheelchair up to the bed, locked the wheels. Shelley placed her good foot on the floor, and Eric helped her to stand. She grimaced in pain and took a moment to breathe and placed a smile on her face. Hey, baby girl, she said, leaning over the rail the best she could. Hi, Mom. Are you okay? Eric says you're in pain. I broke my leg. They gave me something earlier, but it's worn off while I've been waiting to see you. Actually, I'm starting to hurt all over. It was some crash. We flipped several times. Mom, you should have gone home. I couldn't, Shelley said, her eyes welling with tears. My baby was lying on a table being operated on. I had to see you and to speak with you. Bree's eyes fluttered close. I understand. Is Jeffy okay? She's fine. She's out in the waiting room. She was asleep, but she woke up. She wants to see you too. Then we're going home. Her eyes opened again. Well, where's Ricky? Shelley's breathing became labored, and Eric took her by the waist. You need to sit. He lowered her back into the chair. Eric moved back beside the bed. Bree. Ricky can't be here right now, but he'll be here in the morning. Well, where is he? He sighed. The tension in his face was enough to make her panic. Is he okay? Was he hurt? He's fine. He's been arrested. No. No, that can't be. Eric did his best to explain the circumstances to Bree between the hiccups and sobs, and when he finished, he tried to console her. He told me to let you know that he loves you, and he'll be here for you tomorrow. Bree, it's not as bad as it seems. Ricky is sitting in jail right this very minute. His freedom taken away, his dignity taken away. Eric smiled at her. Since when have you ever seen Ricky's dignity taken from him? He'll survive this night. We all will. And I promise you, he won't be dwelling on his lack of freedom. She sniffed. Well, what will he be dwelling on then? God, you, his family, his future. He'll pray a lot, listen for direction and wisdom, and then he'll create his future in his mind so that it will soon become his reality. Can I call him? Can I talk to him? No. I need to see him, Eric, please. I wish that I could make it happen. I need you to accept that it won't happen tonight. I love him so much. I know you do, and he knows, and he loves you too. Use that love to see you through this night. I'm going to send Jeffy in for just a moment, and then I need to take your mom home. She's suffering. Mark and Joey are here too and want to see you. We'll be back tomorrow. You, young lady, need to rest and heal. She nodded. I will. Bye, baby, Shelley said softly as Eric rolled her out. Bye, Mom. I love you all. I love you too. Sleep well. New scene. Eric? No, Bree, it's me. Her eyes focused quickly, and she tried to sit up and gasped in pain. Relax, baby. Everything is okay now. Oh, Ricky, when you didn't show up this morning, I was terrified that something had happened to you. Are you okay? He smiled. I am, oh, so fine. Did anyone try to pick on you? A few tried. I discouraged them. You fought them? No, I used my charming personality. And it worked? She sounded incredulous, which made him laugh. I used it on you, and it worked, didn't it? Smiling, she gave a slight nod. It did. I think it worked too well. What do you mean? Well, I can't live without you now. I can't think of anything but you. You occupy my every thought. I need you, Ricky. I love you. And I you, Brianna Adams. Was it terrible? I mean, being in jail. Oh, it's no piece of cake. It was late by the time I was processed. I didn't have long before I had to bed down. Did you get any sleep? Because you look exhausted. Well, I don't remember sleeping. I began the night counting my blessings and being grateful for all that I have, and for my family being safe, and for you and Jeffy and Shelley being alive. And then I spent the rest of the night in prayer and meditation and contemplation, and I came to some clear conclusions. Like what? Like not wasting 1 minute of life. We could have lost Jeffy yesterday, or your mom, 2 inches lower, and I could have lost you. We are so very blessed. Tommy is now out of our lives, and will be for the rest of his life if things go as we plan. So we're free. He took her hand. And one of the reasons it took me half the day to get here is I had to do some fast running around. What do you mean? Well, first, I went to my penthouse to shower and change, and believe me, that was a necessity. And then he paused and reached into his pocket. And then I had to stop and pick this up. He took a small velvet box from his pocket. Her eyes widened. I know this isn't the most romantic of places, but I promised myself I wouldn't waste 1 minute. Bree, I love you more than life itself. I want to be with you always. I want to have children with you. I want to care for you and protect you. And I want you to do the same for me. He bent close to her. I've known you a long time, and I've loved you for just as long. Brianna, will you marry me? Her eyes never left his. Yes. Yes? She laughed at the puzzled look on his face. You were expecting something else? I guess so, an argument or something. Well, I made some promises myself when Tommy had you. I don't want to waste any more time either. I love you, Ricky. I admire you, I respect you, and I trust you to take care of me and our children. I was a fool once when I pushed you away. I'd be a fool to let you slip away now. There now. Are those enough words? Enough. He covered her mouth with his own. She breathed in his scent, soap and man and something much more primal. All these years she'd been seeking dangerous men when the most dangerous of all was right in front of her. And because he was so dangerous, so capable, so confident, he was able to be gentle and kind and funny and happy and all the things that he was. He deepened the kiss. Sometimes it was as if he couldn't get in close enough. She was so very female, yet she was tough. No wounded bird. This woman wanted to take care of everyone around her. She gave unselfishly of her heart. She pushed herself to face her fears. She was intelligent, funny, and a tigress. And Ricky couldn't get enough of her. She was strong enough to be his companion. She met him equally on the playing field, and that was exactly what he needed. She just had a bullet dug out of her chest, and she was worried about how he'd slept. She was amazing. And even though the whole world wanted her, she was his. And he was a happy man. He opened the box. I hope you like it. If you don't, we can exchange it. Of course, the jeweler was ecstatic that the Brianna Adams would be wearing his design. I told him it needed to be understated because you were one classy chick. He agreed. So, what do you think? She smiled sweetly. Well, it would help if you would take it out of the box and put it on my finger. Oh, yeah, let me do that. She watched his hand shake as he removed the ring. The moment he had it clear of the box, he dropped it, and frantically he searched through the bed covers, sighing with relief when he finally scooped it up. Ricky, Bree said softly. Huh? Calm down. I'm not going anywhere. He blew out a breath, and she held out her hand, and he slipped the ring onto her finger. She held it up in front of her face. It's perfect. Oh, Ricky, it's really beautiful. He grinned. So I did good? You did great. I always want to do good for you, Bree. I don't want to ever disappoint you. Well, as long as you keep being you, I'll never be disappointed. Now kiss me. He did. And that is the end of chapter 21.